Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 6 of Syncing with ServiceNow. I'm your host, Andy Whiteside. I've got Eric Schwartz with me. Eric, how's it going?
It's going great. Happy to be here once again on this fine Thursday afternoon.
Vacation season is over for you, or just kind of intermediate period where you got another one coming up?
I would say that this is a break in my vacation season. So I'm working and got another one lined up for this coming weekend. We're going to be gone for a week at the beach. So
Okay, good.
looking forward to that.
In general, do you have school age kids, or they're still younger than school age?
Yeah, 9, 5, and 2. So I got 2 in school. One was in preschool. She'll be going in kindergarten. The other one's going into 4th grade. So trying to make the most of the summer, especially given the challenges of this past year and what school was or was not.
Yeah, that means you're in the same world I am, where your vacation's always around the school calendar, which is good. But at the same time, I may have said this before, I'm so looking forward to going on vacation when the rest of the world's not there.
Yeah, that's that's definitely a good thing to do. And you know what? I like somewhat maybe in line with what our topic's going to be about is and what's been proven over the last year as far as school is concerned. If I was going to make a bold prediction, I think that the concept of being in school at a particular location all the time is going to change over the next, I don't know, decade, because I think obviously the technology clearly exists where that does not need to be required. Although it is highly valuable and I'm a major advocate for doing that. But when it comes to being flexible and having the right school life balance, I think there's a lot more that there is to be offered by having that flexibility in people's lives. And I'm hoping that there are people out there that are going to challenge that, because the whole fact of just the fact that everybody goes on vacation at the same time and that's when prices go up is enough reason for me to make it where that's not the case anymore. So we could probably have a whole podcast just about that.
Yeah, I mean, that's hybrid work. That's hybrid school. And, there'll be situations where schools are traditional, and there'll be situations where schools, like year-round schools, leverage technology more to make it flexible.
Yeah. I can't wait to see how that plays out.
And in the United States, the laws of supply and demand will figure out which way it goes. Indeed. So our topic today is interesting. Let me get the title of the blog that we're reviewing is New Microsoft Cloud PC Integration Optimizes Hybrid Work, which is exactly what we're talking about here. And it was written by a guy named Matt Shvimer. Am I saying that right?
I'm not going to pretend to know how to pronounce people's last names that I can barely read. It's a
close enough, right?
That I have, but it's close enough.
Yeah, this is from July 14th, so just last week. And the timing is very interesting. Obviously, Microsoft's doing some stuff here to kind of disrupt and provide more value in their subscription business by making an actual desktop, a virtual desktop delivered from their cloud, a reality. And that was big news in my world, because that's what we do. And as I'm scrolling through the announcements, I see the ServiceNow integration piece, and all of a sudden, what was a good announcement for me became a great announcement, because my two worlds collided when I saw that piece. So I think the goal today is kind of talk through what Microsoft is doing and how you guys play a role in it.
Yeah, and it's kind of interesting because the whole genesis of this blog post and the conversation is based on an announcement from Microsoft. And while we do have a part to play in this, and there are some things that are coming down the pipe that ServiceNow is going to make available to our customers that can take advantage of what Microsoft's doing, it's interesting that this is not rooted in ServiceNow, and it's more rooted in what Microsoft is doing, but it just showcases the opportunity of joining the right technologies together and enabling an actual solution, as opposed to some kind of point product that just does one thing. It's really about that whole solution that drives value to business, right? And that's, I think, what we're going to get to today.
I think it says a lot about where ServiceNow is and where it plays in the industry when someone the size of Microsoft has you as a strategic peer in something big that they're doing.
Yeah, it does absolutely. And, ServiceNow has been defining the marketplace, so to speak, of what it's done within digital transformation and business automation, and ever expanding its footprint from ITSM to all of the different product lines that we have today. And Microsoft has become a very strong partner of ours in the last few years, which I think it's a testament to a few things. One, it's obviously a testament to ServiceNow's capability, and what it means to business today. But I think it also has a lot to do with Microsoft's purview in how they are pivoting their business and changing from the way things used to be to just being more agile in general, and being I hate to overuse this word, but being like a platform for a lot of different things, as opposed to the tried and true Microsoft of being the operating system of your desktop and your server and calling it a day. They're really pivoting, and I think I'm excited to see what happens with where else they take their organization.
Yeah. I mean, it's to me, it's taking the legacy world of an operating system, which is a platform, and bringing in the new world of platform as a service, and those two worlds colliding to offer the end user what they need and what they want all at the same time.
Yep, absolutely, without a doubt. And I'm happy that ServiceNow has something to offer here. I think that it's not ready yet. We'll get to that, but I'm excited to see what comes from what Microsoft's doing, how customers are taking it, and what we can do to help drive it.
Yeah. Well, let me, as the EUC guy, cover the second section of the, well, let me go back to the first section. This is all in response to a world of hybrid work where, like in the article here, it says 59% of employees say their companies don't have a fully integrated system to manage digital workflows. At the same time, all of these companies have, not all, but a big chunk of them have some type of hybrid or remote work future. They know it's in their future to have some type of hybrid model, and not having a managed digital workflow is going to be it's going to be handcuffing or limitation if they don't get that done. Well, guess what? That's what ServiceNow does.
Yeah, and I'll just put my 2 cents in on like what I think the first part of this means, right? We put out a survey and got this information about what employees are saying, and I think the reality is that it's just saying that the current organizations have a mishmash of legacy solutions and sprinkled in new technologies and offerings that enable some stuff to be digitally transformed, some stuff not, some stuff that allows you to be collaborating digitally, and some stuff not. And I think that there's a lot of pressure to do both of those things, collaborate and digitally transform your workflows. And that we've just proven that by surveying a whole subset of employees across multiple verticals in these surveys that we've been putting out there. And Microsoft is seeing the same thing by just alone the increase in Teams usage, right? And that obviously is a play for ServiceNow to provide some value there too. And it's just one great reason why we're working together, because the digital collaboration and digital workflows joining together is a place where Microsoft and ServiceNow meet.
And here's a question for you. Do you think that surge in Teams use is only in enterprise companies, or is it in SMB and commercial as well?
I think it's across the board, quite honestly. I mean, if you look at just the collaboration use across not just Microsoft, not to take anything away from them, but just in general, and I know I've seen it in, I mean, I have used Teams more in the last 6 months than I have ever before, simply because more people are using it in their own organizations, and or in not having anything to do with large enterprise, right? School systems or Girl Scout troops, or it's across the board, right? So the collaboration demand is all over the place. It's
Yeah.
not just large orgs.
Well, and that was kind of a loaded question. The reason why I bring that up is because it's important that organizations start to figure out how they can right size ServiceNow into what they're doing as well. I have a lot of ServiceNow conversations these days, and it's mostly the enterprise shops that are trying to figure out how to double down on it. And the medium-sized customers or even the SMB customers are just scared it costs too much. That's not true if they approach it the right way.
Yeah, and you know what? It calls back to a point that I've probably made a few times in the past episodes, where an organization, regardless of size, may look at digital transformation and say, "Wow, we can't do that. There's too much for us to take on, etc." But the reality is that it's beyond it not being that complicated. Once you get to that point where you have that baseline platform and you do have the ability to ingest new workflows and new technologies, it's so much easier after that point. And that it just proves that in this case, right? If you were already a ServiceNow customer and you needed to increase your team's utilization or your deployment of teams because people needed to collaborate on it, then it's you're not just deploying teams. You have the ability to take advantage of all of the integrations and automations that come from ServiceNow and Microsoft Teams working together without needing to build it, right? It's there for the taking if you want it. And it just showcases the need for digital transformation across the board, whether you're big or small, and how you need to start thinking about that. So when new problems come around, you can solve them more easily.
Yeah. So Eric, I'll use what we call an Andyism around here on that one. At least at my age, at one point, it was easier to write a paper, handwrite a paper than it was to type a paper because my typing wasn't that good. But at some point you invest the time and the effort to learn how to type on a computer screen, or in my case, a typewriter back in the day, but a computer screen. And then you get all the efficiencies that come along with being able to do it digitally. That's exactly what we're talking about here. There's a learning curve, there's an investment, but after that, the cost effectiveness and the efficiencies after that become very recognizable.
Yeah. And, would be an interesting conversation for the future, but I can tell you that what I've seen from a couple of companies like Google and Apple, they're going to be taking that one step further, and you'll just be able to take a picture, and then someone else's handwriting or drawings or whiteboarding is going to be completely digitized and understood by the software. Yeah. So you won't even need to take notes. You just point a camera at a chalkboard and boom, everything's in there, and it knows what it is. And that is even crazier.
Right. Well, let me address this section of the article, second section called Meet Microsoft Cloud PC. And let me just walk through a little history lesson here. We've got a world where all Microsoft software was client server based. It was on premises. It was a scenario where it created challenges. It created opportunities too, but it created challenges for organizations to manage the harder stuff like Microsoft email, also known as Microsoft Exchange, with Microsoft Outlook being the client for it. So what they did, they realized, hey, if we can make this stuff delivered as a service through us, we can charge people more, and we can make sure we lock people into our platform, which might be the most important piece of that whole conversation. And we can make it easier for the customer to subscribe to it and, again, get locked into it. So the first iteration of this was Microsoft Office 365, which is where the applications become as a service, whether that's platform as a service or software as a service. It's both, really. And the biggest one of that was Exchange email, where companies stopped becoming their own email administrators, and they start subscribing to that from Microsoft, as well as some of the other normal Office applications. That evolved into Microsoft 365, also known as M365, and that included the Windows operating system license as part of that subscription, whether you ran it on premises or, more importantly, in the cloud, whether it was single session on premises or single session in the cloud, or more importantly, multi-session in the cloud. That's where my in-user compute world collides with that one in a big positive way. And then last week, they announced this new thing called Windows 365, call it W365 if you want. And that's where you actually get a Microsoft Windows desktop virtual machine in their Azure world for a price. and that can be part of your subscription model as well. Now, I want to be clear that it's very important that I point out in my world, EUC world, that that's not a managed virtual machine where somebody, takes care of your software in there. It's just a container of a machine that runs, and it's part of your subscription. A lot of times desktop as a service, which is what this would be, DAAS, desktop as a service, is confusing to customers because they think, oh, I just get a desktop, Microsoft handles all the stuff, and I'm just happy guy. Well, that's not true. They just give you the resource. Somebody like the customer or a partner like XenTegra has to still manage it.
Right.
So that's the announcement. And then if you look at the last line there, it says ServiceNow. We're excited to announce ServiceNow integration with that offering, Windows 365, co-developed by Microsoft. The integration lets users quickly and easily request and approve and receive their cloud PC. So there's some type of, IT as a service that's baked into these things, and ServiceNow is the partner Microsoft chosen to do that with.
Yeah, and so I'm excited to see this come to fruition. I think that the official launch date is August, just a couple weeks away, to make this available to everyone. And then the ServiceNow component is basically us building some integrations with our ITSM and virtual agent solutions to allow companies to have their employees request, reclaim, and just automate the administration of the deployment of these cloud PCs. And it's not much. Now, I haven't had my hands on it. It's not ready yet. We're going to launch it probably in the fall, like just after all this stuff goes live from Microsoft. But what I am assuming here is that this is not a whole lot different than some of our current capabilities with cloud assets that are built in or on premise, where you have a customer who is deployed infrastructure and they have virtual desktops, whether they're in the cloud or on premise, and they're using ServiceNow to deploy, reclaim, and administer that whole concept, right? So we're basically lending our technology to do that. In this case, without the need for managed core cloud infrastructure. You're still managing the desktop, but you don't have to stand up a whole Azure instance or build out your own, servers and virtual desktops either. And that's pretty amazing that's what's happening here, and that's what they're making available to people. You can use this with a Ultrabook and a web browser, right? And then you have access to a full version of Microsoft Windows. It's pretty awesome.
Yeah. Well, let me do another Andyism to you real quick. And obviously it makes sense for ServiceNow is going to want to be part of this Microsoft platform and just the Windows platform in general. And here's how I feel so confident about that is, let me ask you, Eric, what's the most widely used Microsoft application in the world?
Microsoft Office.
That's a good common guess. And a lot of times it's Internet Explorer, and sometimes it's, what would now be Edge, but it's actually Windows. Windows itself is the most widely used Microsoft application in the world.
Okay, sure. I believe that.
And so that's where it makes sense for such a robust platform like yours to be the natural, yin to its yang, because it's going to be everywhere. And you guys are a platform that's so extensible, you can be everywhere too.
Yeah, that's true, right? And we want to be at the forefront of that, allowing, if customers need it, we're going to be purveyors of it.
Yeah. And I think the big piece of this talks about ITSM customers being able just to expect available the free app in the ServiceNow store, where that's going to be tied into the Microsoft's infrastructure for ServiceNow, and you'll be able to communicate with them live inside the desktop.
Yeah, it should be really easy to deploy since it'll be living in the ServiceNow store. And if you have ITSM, you can just deploy it into your ServiceNow instance, and then you'll be able to, like I said, you can request the Windows 365 cloud PC. You can even do it, because we obviously integrate with Microsoft Teams and we have a virtual agent. You can just say in Teams to ServiceNow, and the virtual agent there say, hey, I need a new cloud PC. And then it's going to kick off a series of workflows and approvals, potentially automated approvals, that would then request, deploy, provide credentials, all of that stuff to the user. without any direct interaction from anybody other than the person who needs it. And keep in mind, us having that integration into this new 365 cloud PC to make those requests, you're even from a ServiceNow standpoint, it's somewhat simplified. You don't need to build the workflows or deploy the integration into your infrastructure either, right? Whereas typically before you would have to have ServiceNow talk to, your virtual desktop platform and have all those rules and regulations that you're building there. In this case, a lot of that is streamlined too. So it just makes it simple. You can deploy it, request it, done. And I think the true value of this is unknown. I think there's so much potential beyond just ServiceNow, but with Microsoft and what it means to business, because, and like the whole title of this article, hybrid work, right?
Right.
What does this mean to being able to get people the access they need to do the work that they need to do, and where do they need to do it, right? If they no longer need hardware, or the hardware is agnostic and they can you could have Windows on your phone and on your tablet and on your laptop, and none of them are actually yours.
Yep.
It's pretty amazing.
Yeah. So 9 years ago, I was working with a company, a buddy of mine who doesn't work there anymore. He actually works for Salesforce now. He had this vision of creating an application called Tell It, which is tell IT what you need, and it would run real time in the system tray, and you'd be able to real time collaborate with IT and make requests for things you need. It's exactly this, right? To be able to get what you need real time without having to talk to a human being, unless the workflow kicked into a human being need. And even that could be a real time chat with someone. That's exactly what this is. It's his vision for Tell It happening in this solution.
Yeah, definitely that is the case. That is basically what is happening here. And I would say that if you want to, the way that you said that could be interpreted as people are like, well, now people don't need to do a job, right? And maybe that's true. I like to look at it differently. But before I make that point, well, you look at it, what would happen when somebody who starts at a company needs a desktop? Well, they have to, the amount of work that has to be done to physically make that request and then produce it by a bunch of people within IT, all the people that need access to all the different systems and all that stuff, and the infrastructure behind it, and the physical procurement and shipping and all that, whether it's 10, 15 years ago where they had to go into an office and had to be delivered and set up in their cubicle, or today where it might be shipped to their house and they'll never step foot in an office. There's still so many actions there, right? That are really at this point administrative. It's completely an administrative process, and it's not true value. The true value is getting this person to work as quickly as possible, right? And so now, instead of people spending time on that administrative mundane stuff, it can be automated in almost the most streamlined way possible to get somebody access to a virtual desktop in as little work as possible, with as little hands as possible, freeing up those people that would typically do that stuff to do more complex projects, solve more complicated problems, and then potentially, and most valuably, spend time innovating the technology that the company is using to drive further business. That's the most powerful thing about all of this.
Well, think about it this way. Hey, you're in your virtual desktop and your things aren't performing well. You're able to tell somebody that. They can look real quick, or automation can see that you're running out of memory, and they send off a message to your manager, and your manager says, yeah, give them more memory. They click a box, and you don't even log off. You don't reboot anything. Next thing you know, you've got the memory you need and your problem went away.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. One day I'm sure that it's like, now I talk to my kids and if I played them the dial-up modem sound for what it sounds like to dial into the internet, they wouldn't even understand what it was I was talking about or what that was. They'd think it's some kind of a broken machine probably. Right. And one day, people are going to be like, oh, I have to add storage capacity. I got to add memory to my computer. I got to do anything. There's no pain, no gain. Like that. Right. That's not going to be the case anymore.
Yeah. Yeah, I often talk to young whippersnapper administrators, and I used to have physical computers that I would spend all night installing the operating system just so I could try something and see if it would break it. And then at some point, 10 years into my career, maybe 15, I got to the point where I could just take a snapshot, break it, and just put it right back.
Right.
What a game changer that was. And same thing applies here because of the elasticity, both growing and shrinking. That's the one that a lot of people don't put enough onus on, is the fact that you can shrink things, or you can right size things and grow them as needed versus just buying way too much to make sure you don't miss the mark.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the fact that technology in general enables you to be so much more malleable when you're developing a solution. It changes being wrong, because when you're wrong, the risk and what's at stake is high. It still can be high, obviously, especially if you choose the wrong solution. But because of the quickness at which technology allows you to make changes, and if you have the right platform established to do that, you don't need to be 100% right 100% of the time. And there's probably some implications to that, but having a more forgiving world, in my opinion, is probably a good thing.
Yeah. I mean, you're better off right sizing it too small and adjusting than you are to oversizing it and never knowing it.
Right. And I mean, from a business cost perspective, you're going to be in the green a lot easier than if you're not doing that. Right.
So you might not be in the green as fast, but you'll be in the green as longer.
Right.
In the long run.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah.
And you'll have more control.
That's right. And yeah, both the systems admins and the user will have more control.
Right.
And empowering user and embracing user experience is the most important thing in the EUC side of what I do, and for that matter, for the ServiceNow side of what we do.
Right. Yep. And I mean, that's a lot about what hybrid work is about. And I think it's that work-life balance. It's the efficiency of doing work, getting what you need to do the work that you need to do, and how all of that comes together. Right. And if the management of getting you what you need to do work is cumbersome or complicated, then it's going to cause problems, not just from the output of your employees, but their happiness too. And if you don't have happy employees, you don't have employees, and then you don't have a business, and then it continues, right? So the employee experience, as we routinely talk about here at ServiceNow, is super important. And that's what really drives a lot of this. And if you go back to the very first podcasts that we had, we talked specifically about that, about how, human-centric design is a key tenet of ITSM thought, right? Where you need to incorporate what it is in the life of the user and what they're doing to design a solution that enables them to do the best work they can. And that's what's at the core of this. It's not just a cool technology. It's what does it mean to the people?
Yeah. Well, Eric, that's the topic we wanted to cover. The next piece of the blog really just talks about how to learn more about what Microsoft and ServiceNow are doing together. There's really no platform that ServiceNow can't work with because of the way it's delivered as a service. And I would expect more and more of this to show up in the work world, both SMB, commercial, and of course, enterprise, which enterprise by this point is probably already, a lot of it's already in the ServiceNow, on the ServiceNow bus, because of the way you guys have done this different over the past, let's say 5 years than the traditional client server based solutions.
Yeah, so I said a couple things there. So one is we definitely have a lot of customers all throughout the Fortune 1000, of all shapes and sizes, big and small, and we'll continue to provide innovative solutions to them in this way. And I think in this case, as you were talking, I was just thinking, like, anytime there is a new solution that duplicates or replaces existing solutions that big business has probably spent a lot of time and money on, you wonder, well, how are they going to take advantage of something like this? And just the low-hanging fruit that I see is in the edge, right? Where if you have a giant organization that already has an established cloud or on-premise solution for virtual desktops and whatnot, as they grow beyond that, they can use this, right? Or maybe even further remote employees where maybe they don't have on-premise or local quote unquote cloud resources like in country, right? You can start to use these things to solve problems that potentially were cost prohibitive before. And maybe that, they left those things out, right? And now we can start to do that. And ServiceNow will play a part in there and being able to automate a lot of that.
Yep.
And then the second thing you were talking about is the last piece of this, this blog post. And essentially there's a collection of links to a bunch of documents, ebooks, and whatnot regarding our relationship with Microsoft. We are a very proud sponsor of the new Microsoft Inspire event that they have going on. I think last week, something like that. There was a webinar that was last week that you can probably go back and watch. And we have just a lot to say about innovating with Microsoft Teams, Microsoft Azure, is Cloud PC. And I recommend that you check it out because there's a lot that you can do that you wouldn't think that you could do with ServiceNow and Microsoft.
Right. And there's no limit. There's no end to that once you start building upon that platform. That's the most exciting thing, I think, for some people. You got this entry level stuff, which is great, and what you can get value out of. And then once you start to have that data and those workflows, the sky's the limit.
Yeah, that's right. And of course, as I've said this before too, ServiceNow being a development platform, if it doesn't work out of the box, you don't need ServiceNow to build it. You can build it. And right. If you want to do something that hasn't been done before, it's relatively easy.
Yeah. Well, Eric, I appreciate you jumping on and covering this with me. And you and I can catch up on what we want to cover down the road. But there's certainly an opportunity for listeners in the XenTegra world to have end user compute technologies specific out of the Windows 365, but doesn't mean it's limited here. You can, all these same things you can start to develop within your own Windows world, whether it's in Azure or on premises or some other cloud. I appreciate you covering this with me.
Yeah, no problem. I'm excited to talk about this. I'm excited to see where this goes. I think there's a lot of potential, and I'm looking forward to what XenTegra can do in this world as well. So thank you.
I literally just got off a call with another customer talking about business continuity and disaster recovery, all automated and planned and managed through ServiceNow. So I just saw it happen firsthand.
Excellent. That's big opportunity for us. So.
All right, sir. Well, until next time, thank you.
Thank you.